Hello, everybody out there in radio, TV, internet, and social media land. This is a call to action. I'm your host, Alex C. Habersham, and our direct intention is to influence and educate and empower the community. And one particular way that that can be done is through formal, FORMAL, formal education. Now, every time I engage and indulge into a conversation about education, I think about an expression that's not used enough. And that expression is like, if you see a sign or if you see a book, that expression says, if you can read this, thank
Hmm.
a teacher. And I think oftentimes that's overlooked as it relates to the role that teachers play and that education plays in our community. But guess what? With our guest today, then I'm gonna reorder that phrase and say, if you can read this, thank a teacher, uh, thank a principal, you know, thank a retired educator, thank somebody who's been on the board of education, and thank the president of the board of education because our guest today has had all of those roles. And that's none other than Miss Myrtice Johnson, who has been just a mainstay in this community, not only from an educational perspective, but primarily, although she does everything, from an educational perspective. And I think that we all need to garner and develop a better appreciation of education and a better understanding of education and the need and the role that education plays. I mean, guess what? And then I'm gonna turn it over to President Johnson. Look, look, irrespective of a person or a child's economic status, social status, or mental status, or what have you, you know, they still need an education. They could be poor folk, rich folk, in between folk, challenged folk, sick folk. And we all need to understand that. And I'm so happy that we have somebody with us today in the presence of Ms. Myrtice Johnson, who was recently elected the president of the Macon Bill Board of Education after having, I ain't gonna say the number of years because she looks like she's only 40 with all that hair that they looking so good. So I'm just so proud and so happy to be able to have of our guest, Miss Myrtice Johnson. And then I just told her before we came on there, I said, Miss Johnson, and she said, yeah. I said, I've heard about a free range chicken, which means that chicken they just let them go all over everywhere. Well, today we have a free range educator, and she's got free range because she's been all over the campus, all over everything as it relates to education. So you can begin by talking a little bit about yourself, talk anything about any initiative as a newly elected position, what you would like to see the community to do, where you need help at, what have you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to some and to present to others Ms. Myrtice Johnson, the recently elected president of the Macon Bill Board of Education. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, my friend. Alex and I are church members, so I get to see you all the time. And I want to mention that your daddy, the late great A.I. Habersham, was the Hamilton School granddaddy. Your daddy was a big supporter of us at Hamilton School. He would always come to the school and give me little nuggets on how to make my job go smoother. And I think about him all the time, Mr. Habersham, because he was so instrumental to me,
Hmm.
the staff, and my children and the parents at Eugenia Hamilton Elementary School. He called himself the school's granddaddy.
Oh, wow.
So we had to listen to the granddaddy because he always had good information to give us. And I see the same thing in you. So let me tell you a little bit about Murder's Champion Johnson. I like to use my maiden name, Champion, because that's my daddy's name. That's the name he gave us. And there are more than one Myrtice Johnson in Bibb County. So I always refer to myself as Myrtice Champion Johnson. And I like to use the word champion because I am a champion for the children in Bibb. And I am a champion at everything that I do. I try to be a champion at it. So I was reared on the farm back in Smithfield, Georgia. You heard of Smithfield, Georgia? That's right between Americas and Albany, Georgia. That's Southwest Georgia. I grew up on my dad's 100-acre farm where we plant peanuts and cotton and okra and corn, and we had to get out there in that field. We had to work from sun up to sundown. So I'm familiar with working. But I want to tell you a little story about my daddy. When we would be in the cotton field picking that cotton, we had to wear a cotton sack. And daddy would come by and monitor our work. I was 12 years old at that time. When he checked my work, he was not satisfied. And he got on to me for not having as much cotton in my cotton sack as he thought a 12-year-old should have. So I started crying. And I said, Daddy, I'm doing the best I can. And he said, little girl, let me tell you something. He put his hand
Hmm.
in my face just like this. He said, your best ain't good enough. And how in the world could my best not be good enough? He said, because you have to reach the standard. And until you reach the standard, your best is not good enough.
Wow.
And I took that with me as my guide for the rest of my life. Now, some people might say, how your best is not good enough because if your best hasn't reached the standard. We have to reach the standard in the classroom. When they say, well, I did the best I could with my students, and those students are not reaching the standard, then I'm sorry to tell you, your best wasn't good enough. So that's what we're looking at in the Bibb County school system. I'm a graduate from Albany State University, then Albany State College. Went on to Mercer University to get my master's, have a double master's in middle grades education and leadership. Went on to Georgia State to get my leadership degree and started on my doctorate. But I'm sorry to tell you, Mr. Hamilton, I'm a doctoral dropout. At the time I was going to school, I had to take care of my three children, and I was going through a lot of things in my life, but I just couldn't make it through. So I dropped out in my doctoral year. But I was a teacher for 14 years and a principal for 17 years. I came from the classroom to the principal seat. Never had an opportunity to be an assistant principal. They just pulled me out that classroom and put me right over there at Hamilton School. So I had to hit the ground running, and running I did. So after I retired from the school system after 31 years, I became involved with the retired educators. First with Bibb retired educators, and then on the state level, I was the state area director for Area 8 for 4 years. And after that, I ran for the state president. And I have you to know that I'm the only Black elected president for Bibb, for Georgia. I'm sorry, Georgia retired educators. And we had a wonderful time doing that. We did so many great things for our retired educators. So from there, I became the local president again. And now I am serving on the Bibb County School Board. I'm entering my fifth year, which is my second term. And I'm just so grateful that my school board members saw in me that I could be their school board president.
Hmm.
I am so appreciative because they didn't have to vote for me, but they did. We are an exemplary school board as declared by the state of Georgia, the Georgia Association of I forgot our name. But at any rate, uh they declared us 2 years in a row an exemplary school board. And one of my goals this year is to uphold that name, Georgia School Board Association. My goal is to uphold that name of an exemplary Georgia school board. Now, I'm going to quit and let you start asking me some questions.
Well, I mean, the first thing I'm gonna say congratulations,
Thank
and
you.
then I just wanna sashay, whatever you call it. You know what I'm trying to say, Stolen is. I just want to move directly into, there are so many things going on with education. And then the reason I say what I said, in the introduction is because we need to realize that, public education is a necessity. Public education is necessary and that it affects all of us. And I don't know why it seems to be a tone that, education is not important for everybody. Like these schools are not important because it reflects on the position of our society. It reflects on the progress of our society. And it reflects on the pride of our society. So I just want to talk about education, where it is, where it's going, where
Mm.
improvement is needed, how the community can help, and any other thing. And you got a lot of stuff coming up, and I don't know how it's going to affect, you got whatever you call it, where people can move their kids out of public education into private schools and get a X number of dollars, which I mean, I just don't want to see public education hurt because it's going to hurt the community. It's going to, generate more crime. It's going to affect our ability to attract industries and get people jobs. It's going to affect the flavor of the community, the confidence of the community. It's going to reflect how the community is viewed when people are industries and what have you are coming to town. So I just want to talk about education. Where are we? With education and where we're going, where we need to go, and what can we do to help.
Thank you. I'm glad you said the things that you said about public education. Public education serves everybody. We have to accept every student that come into our doors, no matter how rich they are, if they're middle class, they're low income, they don't have a home to live in, they live on the street, they live in the cars. We have to accept them. No excuses. Now, the direction of public education is, and just going to speak about Bill. I think Bill is going in a good direction now. We have a superintendent who is very transparent on what we're doing in these schools, Dr. Dan A. Sims. And I feel very, very fortunate that I was able to serve on the board during the time he was elected as the board superintendent. He has a heart for children. He has a heart for Bibb County Public Schools. He has a heart for Bibb County. He loves our children. And one thing that our children need in order to succeed is love. They have to have that. And they have to have love from the adults, from the staff, from everybody. As a classroom teacher, see, a lot of our students sometimes don't feel that love in the community, sometimes even at home. But we have to serve them all. And we have to give them that love that we perceive that they are missing. When I was in the classroom, even when I was a principal, when I walked in the door, the children just run to me and give me a great big hug. They have to have that hug. They have to have it. They have to have that pat on the back. They have to have you saying, I love you. So if when the students start believing that their teachers love them, get anything you want to get out of them.
Hmm.
Because I love Miss Johnson loves me. Mr. Harrison loves me, and I'm gonna do my best just because they perceive that you love them. Now, one of the things that is a problem for us and Bill, and I understand this is nationwide, is the rate in which our children come to school. Now, absenteeism in Bibb County nationwide is a big problem. And you've seen Dr. Sims on his soapbox time and time again, presenting to the parents about getting the children in the seats. As you know, now COVID hit us really bad when we had to stay at home. We haven't recuperated from COVID yet for getting the children mindset back at the school. Now the attendance rate was low before COVID, but now it's even lower after COVID. So the mindset has to be from the parents and the students that the students must come to school. I remember Mr. Haversham when I was a principal at Hamilton. My parents had so much confidence in me with their children. When the children wouldn't get up, you know what they do? Call me on the phone. Say, Miss Johnson, I can't get little Susan to get up out this bed. Make her get out the bed. Now here I am at the school, and I got to get on the phone and make little Susan get out the bed and come to school. That's one of the things I had to do for as a principal. You had to talk to her. I said, put little Susan on that phone. So she put her on the phone. I said, little Susan, where are you? I'm at home in the bed. I said, get out that bed and put your clothes on and come to school. Yes, ma'am. She was there in a matter of minutes. So sometimes we have to do little things like that just to get the children in school. If they're not in school, we can't teach them. They can't learn at home. You know, they probably could, but they could learn better in the classroom with the teacher. So people wonder, well, why our test scores are dropping? One of the reasons why our test scores are dropping because we don't have the students at school. They got to be in the school. They must be at the school. So you say, how can we help? How can we help? Do whatever we can. Get in those homes. Get in the churches. Get in the community. Go where the parents are and impress upon the parents the importance of getting their children to school. Education
Amen.
is at the schoolhouse. Now, I recognize a lot of the parents a lot of the parents like to homeschool their children. But these children I'm talking about, they're not being homeschooled. They're somewhere on the streets. But I can't go out without seeing some of the children on the street. Why you not at school, little baby? Oh, I just didn't go today. You know, I don't have a problem with questioning them. They might slap me, but I don't take that chance. Well, little sweetie, guess what? You need to go to school. You need to go to school every day. Why do I do that? Because I love them. And I know they can't get what they need at Walmart during the school day, on the street, out during the school day. I talk to the parent, Mama, why this baby not at school? She didn't want to come. Well, Mama, you got to make that child come to school. If you don't want to school, you got to make them come. But we got to encourage them to come. And then when they get to school, we got to give them something that's going to keep their mind. We got to be prepared to teach them. Now we can't just have a child into school and pass out some paper and say fill out the paper, do busy work. Children not gonna do busy work. They have all these computers and cell phones and other things that keep their attention. So we as educators have to be creative in those schools so we can keep the children's attention. So when you keep that learning fun and get their attention, they'll be glad to come to school. They'll be
Come
glad
on.
to come to school and get that learning because I might miss something. If I don't come to school every day, I might miss something. Something is happening and I'm not getting it. Again, when I was at Hamilton, my teacher, you got to keep them teachers in school too because they'll stay out. But at Hamilton, the teachers would rarely miss a day in school. They even came to school sick. And I said, Miss Teacher, I don't want you coming to school sick because you can't do your best and then you might get somebody else sick. So don't come to school sick. Why do you come to school sick? And I said, Miss Johnson, I feel like my children would miss something. They will miss something if I don't come to school. I must come to school. And I had some substitute teachers, And they worked only for me. They ain't go nowhere else. Worked
Mhm.
only. So I said, Miss Johnson, we can't work for you anymore. I said, why can't you work for me anymore? They said, because your teachers won't stay out of school. We don't have any work. Because they won't stay out of school. And I said, but that's the goal. The goal is, I'm not trying to keep you from having work, but the goal is to keep these teachers at the school. So the students have to be at the school. The teachers have to be at the school. Everybody must be at the school. And everybody got to do their part. If the teachers and the educators are doing their part, the kids can't help but to do their part. That's just the way it is. I'm an old-fashioned educator.
A couple of things. Now, is there a particular division or department at the Board of Education that deal with absenteeism? And the reason I'm asking you is that, I feel like you've done such a good job of trying to sell the importance of people being in school. We need to get these kids in schools because this absenteeism, as you mentioned, is just hurting everybody. But so what I'm trying to do is project somebody out there to somebody out there under the sound of my voice. Each one reach one, each one teach one.
There you go.
So what I'm saying is that if there is a department at the Board of Education that deals with absenteeism, and there are organizations and individuals and institutions and what have you, churches, in the community. So I'm hopeful that somebody, will hear, you know, what's going on as it relates to absenteeism. And, people deal with parents, they see parents, they got relatives. So I'm wondering about what kind of process can an individual, an institution, or a person utilize to kind of, affect absenteeism? Is that something they can do? Is that somewhere they can report? Can they come up with some kind of initiative? Is there some information that can be distributed, at the churches or what have you? So we want to try to come up today. Myrtice Champion Johnson and Alex Christopher Hamersham, come up with some kind of process, some kind of initiative, some kind of program, some kind of suggestion where we all can be involved. And then I tell you another thing we do. We see kids in the street, maybe we driving down, you roll the window down and say, why y'all ain't in school? You need to be in school. Just everything, and anything that we can do as a community to kind of address the absenteeism problem.
So I'm glad you asked that question. I feel there's a lot we can do. Let's say in the church, a lot of our children come to church. The parents come to church. We can address absentee issue from the pulpit. Now, the pastor can get on his soapbox and talk to the parents. Parents, we need your children in school, just like we need your children at the church. And I think if we have a lot of churches in Bibb County, if we just start at the church and have the preacher to get on their soapbox and have a little part of that sermon to talk about the importance of the children being in school. Because if we don't educate these children, we got to take care of them. And I prefer educating them because in my old age, I want these kids to be able to take care of me. So who's gonna take care of us in our old age? We haven't gotten there yet. Who's gonna take care of us in our old age if we don't educate these children? Then we got all these organizations. We got a million organizations right here in Bibb County. Some of the organizations are doing a decent job with talking with the parents about the importance of the children, talking with the children about the importance of coming to school. But we can do more. We can always do more. Now, seems like to me, because I've been asking the same question, uh, who whose job is it to contact these parents at the home and make sure these kids are out that bed and come to school? Well, when I was a principal, I had to do it. And I had to assign some of my staff to do it. I don't think that has changed. I've been asking. Now, one of the things that I'm asking for, and they promised me I was going to get it, they were going to put it in the budget. I am asking for an attendance clerk in every school. Now, some schools have an attendance clerk because they pay for it out of their Title I money. I don't think the state pays for an attendance clerk. And in fact, I know they don't. That's why they don't have them. But we do have alternative programs that will pay for the attendance clerk. So my proposal to the superintendent is that starting next year, that we put an attendance clerk in every school. You have someone designated whose job is to check that attendance every day, see who is absent, get on the phone, call the mama, get out into the community, find out where that child is. Why isn't that child in school? We've got to put out some effort. Now, it used to be where we go to the homes. I don't know if they're going to the homes now, but it used to be we go to the home, sit down and talk with the parents. Say, little Johnny needs to be at school. You know, they can't graduate if they miss so many days. You can't
I know
graduate.
that. That is so important. Well, what we're going to do is, I mean, if you've got some ideas as it relates, or if you want to be involved or volunteer, then call the Board of Education. I mean, I don't know the number right off, but it's not hard to look up. And then just call the superintendent's office because I'm sure that Dr. Sims, Superintendent Sims, and President Johnson would greatly welcome, any ideas, any support, any suggestions, any initiative to address this problem with absenteeism and other, efforts to emphasize and accentuate and improve education in our community. Thank you so much. This is the call to action. I'm your host, Alex E. Havisham, having interviewed Miss Myrtice Champion Johnson, who is the newly elected president of the Bibb County Board of Education. And then I'll start again. If you can read this, thank a teacher. And if you can hear this, then you ought to realize the importance of education and get involved. It's important to all of us, and it benefits all of us to have a good, viable, effective, and productive educational system. Thank you, President Johnson, for all you do. And I see you already got initiatives on the table, and I'm sure that the community is going to support you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
www.makingblackpages.com